Okay, I'm reading out of this book, and this is volume 2 of the book by author S. Maxwell. We're in part 4, Stories of Moses and the Tabernacle. And it has listed on here Exodus 19 through Leviticus 8. And we go here. Ooh, neat. This illustration is by Russell Harlan. And of all things, the Ten Commandments. And it says, the first commandment of the Decalogue teaches us our duty to God, and the last 6 are duties to men. This wonderful, first 4 commandments of the Decalogue teaches us our duties to God, and the last 6 are duties to men. This is a wonderful law given to Israel through Moses. Had never been changed. And of course, the mom was pointing at each one of them. And of course, her hand is like really right there on thou shalt not steal. Okay? So we're in part 4, story 1, the 10 golden rules. 3 months after the children of Israel had been delivered from Egyptian bondage, they were encamped not in Canaan, but in very hot desert in the shadows of Mount Sinai. Instead of going north, the pillar of cloud had moved south. Excuse me. And there then were hundreds of miles from where they were expected to be at this time. Why had God done this? First, because he knew that his people, just freed from centuries of slavery, were not ready to meet the warlike Philistines who lived in the southern part of Palestine. Second, because he had some lessons he wanted to teach them, and for this he needed time and a private place shut off from the rest of the world. Third, the most important of all, he was planning a great future for his people, and he wanted to have them all to himself for a while until was sure they understood what sort of people he wanted them to be and what kind of work he wanted them to do. For God had not brought the children of Israel out of Egypt to by such a wonderful deliverance just so that they can be like other nations. They were to be totally different. Someday, through them, would come the seed of a woman, Jesus, in quote, in parentheses, okay, to crush the serpent's head. Therefore, he wanted them to be his chief helpers in making known his plan of salvation to all people. They, above all, were to tell the story of his love in the world, how he created it in the beginning, and how he planned to restore it to his, real funny one, Edenistic, Edenic, Edenic beauty someday in the future. If they were to be his witnesses, speaking to others of a holy God, they too must be holy. They must know right from wrong and be glad and willing to choose the right at all times. They must know why sin is hateful and hate it. But how could they be a holy people when they were so little of what God expected of them? When they knew so little of what God expected of them. True, some knowledge of his laws and standards had come down to them through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, and their own parents. But during the long, sad years of bondage in Egypt, when they had to live, it says they had to live and work among idolaters, many of God's teaching had been forgotten. Because God knew all this, he spake again from Sinai, making known he making known his will to clearly so clearly that there could be no mistake or misunderstanding about it through all times to come. Before he did so, however, he told Moses to tell people to sanctify themselves and to wash their clothes. This was to be a very solemn occasion, which they would not forget as long as they lived. Be ready against the third day, said Moses, for the third day of the Lord will come down. For the third day the Lord will come down in the sight of the people upon Mount Sinai. Great expectations filled the camp. The mighty God who had saved them from the Egyptians, who had cut the path through the sea, and who had sent them bread from heaven and water from the rock, the wonderful God of whom they had talked and dreamed from childhood, was coming near to them, so near they would be able to hear his voice. The day of preparations quickly passed. Then on the morning of the third day, Mount Sinai became like a volcano. Something submitted Its summit was enveloped by a fiery cloud. There was thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount. The mount and Mount Sinai was together on a smoke because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. So it kind of did like a volcano. It was an awesome sight. The children of Israel trembled with fear. Even the boys and girls stood silent and still as they gazed at the mighty spectacle in wide-eyed wonder. Suddenly, far up on the mount, out of the midst of the fire and smoke, came a wondrous, deep, rich, melodious, melodious, melodious. It was the voice of God. And then we have an illustration of them washing their clothes. And these are stains that apparently have been in this book for 70 years. Yeah, because this book is, he's, ooh, it might be ash from um from a cigar. Okay, and then let's get back to the story. And God spake all these words, saying, I am God, the Lord thy God, which had brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And he declared his holy will in the 10 Commandments. First one, thou shalt not have no other gods before me. 2. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visit the iniquity, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children, upon the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and shewing, it says, showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, and to keep my commandments. 3. Thou shalt not take the Lord thy God, the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. 4. Remember the Sabbath day, and keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor, and do all thy work, but on the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, nor work thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, any manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the God blessed the seventh day, and hallowed it. 5. Honor thy mother and thy father, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. 6. I don't 6. Thou shalt not kill. 7. Thou shalt not commit adultery. 8. Thou shalt not steal. 9. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And 10. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, nor shalt thou covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his, there's that funny word that I ain't going to say, but I'm going to say donkey, nor anything that he has that is thy neighbor's. As the people listened, they were greatly moved, that loving voice, speaking with such majesty and power, yet with the tenderness they had never heard before, touching every heart. It made them want to be good. If this is what the will of God, if this was the will of God, then they wanted to do it. So they answered together and said, all that the Lord hath spoken will we do. 3 times they said it, and I believe they meant it. But God knew as soon as they would God, but God knew how soon they would forget, and that some would begin to question what it was he had said. So, because of these commandments were his will, not only for the, and then it stops right there for a second. We have two illustrations, and they're supposed to be tied together. One's at the top, one's down at the bottom. And this is what Sinai possibly looked, and then the people looking on. And I'm saying it was ash because this kind of looks like it's burnt. Okay? Not only for the Israelis, but for all mankind. And in order that men should know that they are unchangeable, he wrote them down two slabs of stone. Wrote them on two slabs of stone. The Bible says that he gave unto Moses when he had made, he gave unto Moses when he had made an end of communing with him upon the Mount Sinai, two tablets of testimony. It says tables. Two tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of God. God himself, God wrote them himself with his own finger. How very important they must be. Jesus thought also too, when long years after the wonderful scene at Sinai, our loving Savior came to teach us how to live, and once again revealed the mind and will of God. He said, "Thus till heaven and earth pass, not wait, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall be no wise pass from the law, till all is fulfilled." One tittle, okay. Till heaven and earth pass, not one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till it's fulfilled. Okay, confusing there. And he added these seldom words: "Whosoever therefore shall break one of these, whoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments," okay, "whosoever therefore shall break one of these last commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the last of the kingdom of heaven. But whomsoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven." Today, these 10 golden rules are still God's will for us. All who love him truly will try their best to keep them with his help. From their hearts they will say with gladness, like the Israelites of old, "All that the Lord hath said, we do, and be obedient." And then, of course, it has an illustration at the bottom of people in church. And you got to think, this is 1954, so this is the 50s when this is made. Okay, that was part 4, story 1, and now we'll give me a little bit to recuperate and go to the next story. And it looks like we still got a long way to go before this book is done. Then I can go to the, another book. I got 10 books and all. So, see you in a bit.